We are Team 7, here to present our project, 50 Shades of Green. In agriculture, minimization of pesticide usage with spot application requires accurate classification of seedlings as either crops or weeds. This is a classic machine learning problem for which we utilize supervised and unsupervised approaches.
Previously, work on this dataset has focused on training convolutional neural network models to classify the images based on plant species. There are multiple models constructed using a variety of techniques, including data augmentation, transfer learning, and downsampling. Model accuracies range from 79% to over 99% in testing. Other projects have focused on using computer vision to segment the images into clusters that separate the background from the plant leaves. The success of these approaches is difficult to quantify, as no ground truth exists for this task.
Our main research objective was to understand and overcome the limitations of training a CNN with a dataset that is artificial and has little variation. In particular, target leakage is a problem for the raw dataset because every seedling image is taken against a background of pebbles or a measuring stick, but smaller species will have a higher zoom level. A CNN can extract features from the relative size of the background elements instead of from the seedlings themselves, which generalizes poorly for real-world test sets. Another issue with the dataset is class imbalance. Weed species are better represented than crop species, both in number of species and images per species. We build upon previous work to address these challenges and produce a more accurate and generalized classification model.
To ameliorate target leakage, we chose to use k-means. Our pipeline consisted of suppressing white pixels to mitigate initializing those pixels as potential centers for k-means. We then used the silhouette coefficient to determine cluster optima and extracted green pixels according to cluster centroids.
Briefly, our results for segmentation were outstanding, with successful plant body extraction from over 95% of images with little to no tuning. Some representative samples are shown now. In our investigation of color space, we discovered that elbow method analysis yielded a putative range of the number of cluster centers. However, RGB quantization often assigned plant bodies to background clusters, particularly for smaller plants. Instead, we converted images into HSV space and quantized only the hue channel. This was both more accurate and more performant. There exists a need to automatically determine K for an image. We decided to calculate the average silhouette score for all observations in reference to their assigned clusters for the putative range discussed earlier. This was done on downsampled images to reduce compute time. Our analysis was able to consistently find the appropriate K.
White values chosen for suppression were largely influenced by illuminance, hue similarity between the background and leaves, and qualitative results from tuning representative samples. One way in which we attempted to improve these results was through cascading segmentation, where we ran k-means a second time. This produced mixed results, successfully isolating plant pixels in some cases, but introducing holes in others.
For the random forest model, we created features of histograms, one for each of the RGB channels and one for the grayscale channel. We also made 3 multi-dimensional histograms, one for the 3 RGB channels together, 2 for the green, blue, and green-red channels. We then reduced the best 200 features using the ANOVA F value between the label and the feature for a classification task. We then trained the random forest on the dataset in 2 different ways, the segmented and unsegmented images to classify the type of plant, and then for the crops versus weeds. For the normal images, we got a precision of 0.84, for the segmented images, we got a precision of 0.77, and for the crops versus weeds, we got a precision of 0.9.
We aim to develop a CNN classifier that yields accurate results without a resource or time-intensive training process. Undersampling was done on 11 classes so that each class was represented equally. An 80-20 split was used for the training and testing respectively. To compensate for the small dataset, we used the exception model architecture and leveraged transfer learning with weights initialized on the ImageNet dataset. The same hyperparameter configuration was used to train models on the raw and segmented images. For the raw dataset, training took about 40 minutes and achieved a testing accuracy of 94.7%. The segmented image model took only 25 minutes to train. It attained an accuracy of 91.7%. The random forest models perform similarly to existing neural network classifiers. Both of our neural network models outperformed all existing models trained on the unaugmented dataset. However, the training process for the random forest was faster by an order of magnitude. By juxtaposing models trained on the raw images with models trained on the segmented images, we demonstrate that both random forest and neural network models perform worse on images with no background. This indicates that the models utilize aspects of the image backgrounds in their classifications. When target leakage is prevented through segmentation, random forest accuracy decreased by 7% and neural network accuracy decreased by 3%.
Though our segmentation pipeline largely isolates plant pixels, we can extend this work by using more illumination and variant approaches, such as edge detection, as with Sobel filters and canning. Similarly, noise reduction can further improve results.
Future work on the classifiers should assess how these models generalize. The impact of diverse backgrounds and viewing angles on prediction quality must be considered before applying these models in the real world. Further accuracy improvements may be achieved through refined hyperparameter tuning or an ensemble of models that enable cascading classification. In conclusion, we leveraged k-means clustering to develop a robust leaf segmentation technique, and we developed accurate classification models while overcoming several challenges inherent in this dataset. Thank you for your attention.